everybody, this is the Wikstrand, and I learned something new while watching this movie. I learned that, the British are probably not that popular in certain parts of Australia because, well, they were kind of assholes. And let's find out what kind of evil stuff they have done this time. This is the Nightingale. Australia, 1825. So we have Claire, who has been convicted of a crime. We don't quite know what kind of a crime she has committed, but she's out of the slammer at the moment. But apparently getting out of jail doesn't necessarily mean that you're free, because she is in the hands of Lieutenant Hawking. Hawking is, the lieutenant of this outpost, that is supposed to, keeping the settlers away from the blacks, that is, attacking people sometimes here. This is, during the Black Wars of 1825 to 1831, which was a low-intensive frontiers war in Australia. Essentially, they're protecting them from, the Aborigines who wants to attack them and stuff like that. The problem for Hawkins is the fact that most of his soldiers are incompetent drunks and stuff like that. So he's having her, working at the inn at this outpost, and she's supposed to sing British songs to remind them of the homelands and stuff like that, which she probably fucking hates because, the Irish have their own axe to grind with the British, but we'll leave that for now. As I said, she is basically owned by Hawkins, and she cannot travel anywhere, and she cannot do anything she wants to. She has sort of started a family and tries to, to redeem herself. She has a, Irish husband and a small daughter and stuff like that. But she, and especially her husband, is growing very, very impatient. When are we going to get out of here? Because the only thing he needs to do is essentially, to sign this letter that, allows her to go anywhere. But he doesn't want to sign this letter and prefers to, owning this woman and, doing what he wants with her and sometimes raping her and stuff like that. And all of these things are not even, the tip of the iceberg of all the evil stuff that Lieutenant Hawkins is going to do in this movie. He's actually giving good old, Purple Scrutum Face a run for his money as the worst villain of 2018. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, because Hawkins is also very frustrated because he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be in this hellhole. He wants to, be promoted to captain so he can get another posting. But the thing is that he gets word of that his latest request of becoming captain has been rejected. And he knows that maybe he can fix this situation if he goes to the nearest town and pleads his case, to the local governor and stuff like that. Maybe he can get that captain's honor and be able to leave this place. At this point, I thought to myself, I think I know where we're going here. I think he's going to tell Claire that I'm going to use your local knowledge and stuff like that so we can go to this town, because it's a dangerous thing to cross this untamed wilderness where there are, chain gangs and unchecked Aborigines and stuff like that. And that was what I assumed was going to happen. And, when we get to this point, I'm going to, grant you your freedom and sign this letter and do all the things I'm going to do. And, can she trust him? That was what I thought was going to happen. But Hawkins has other plans. Instead, he and a bunch of incompetent scallywagons, do something that is quite awfully evil. It's so evil that it is very rarely shows in movies. And they leave her very, very sad and aching for revenge. And they leave for the town, with their Aboriginal guides. And she decides to go after them with her own Aboriginal guide called Billy. And this is essentially a rape and revenge movie. And I will say this, Quentin Tarantino would have been proud of you, Claire, for doing this revenge thing. So this is essentially our movie. I love how this movie is structured, because first we have, her and Billy walking across the scarred lands and, seeing the evil doings of the British bickering, and he's asking her, is this, you know, worth the revenge, and what you're going to do when you have done this revenge and stuff like that. And he's talking about, you know, his culture that is being massacred by the British and stuff like that. And then we have Hawkins and his merry band of marauders who just keeps doing evil stuff all the time, and, you know, keeps getting into more and more trouble and doing more and more vile things. And when this movie had been going on for 1.5 hours, I said to myself, wow, this movie's really cooking. This movie's really excellent. And the thing is that I felt at that point, we are approaching the end of this movie, but we have 45 minutes left. How are they going to fit 45 minutes into this movie when you have max 10 minutes left of this movie in a, you know, normal situation? Well, said director Jennifer Kent, why don't we do something that enable us to essentially cram in a totally different and entirely new movie into the, you know, last 45 minutes? Then I said, what? What are you doing? Because one thing happens in this movie that changes a lot of stuff. And I'm not going to second guess why, you know, some characters do stuff in certain situations. You can interpret things that, you know, because of, you know, so-and-so, this character did such and such, but they did something I can't explain. They did something that made me go, what? I will give you a little bit of an example. Let's say that you have a character who in 2 sequences eats shrimps. And then the character is put in front of yet another plate of shrimps, but will not eat it. Now, if the character explains that I will not eat this plate of shrimps because of so-and-so or such and such, then we understand why. But if he simply gets up from the table and walks away and doesn't explain his action, then we don't know why. That is essentially what happened in this movie, and it was a very frustrating thing to do because I didn't understand what was happening. What was this? And after that, as I said, they essentially did a totally different movie. And then I was scrambling to try to find, well, where are they going now? Oh, they're doing that. No, they're not doing that. Oh, they're doing that. No, they're not doing that either. What are you doing, Nightingale? And I was a bit afraid that this was going to fall off a cliff totally. Now I will say this, that this sort of different movie is not bad, but it clearly dampened my enthusiasm for the whole thing, and it chipped away you know, the ratings, and points were dropping by the minute. And I was thinking to myself, they can still salvage this. They just need a good ending, and we didn't get that. What we got was an ending that was flat and rushed and underwhelming. I would have been so happy with this just being a art house Australian revenge tale with fantastic nightmare sequences, with very, very realistic and brutal violence, and an unsettling tone, and a fantastic atmosphere that, you know, accomplished the whole thing. And this movie is very unique looking, and it has, you know, a important message without hammering it in too hard, and everything was cooking. And then they kind of fucked this thing up by, you know, doing something completely different that I didn't think belonged here. But it is not a bad movie. I love huge chunks of this movie. The authenticity. This movie really has a big filmed on location feeling to itself. The cinematography is great. We have great actors. We have an interesting story. We have characters we care about. We have fantastic villains, and we have a location and a period in time that really doesn't get that much attention in movies, and it will teach you something about Australian history. So I am at 2 minds about this, because on the one hand I really love the concept of this movie, but the execution wasn't great. But the structure of the movie hindered this movie from becoming an absolute super mega classic. I think I am in the minority here, because I do believe that most people who watch this movie probably will defend what they did, how they structured this movie, and the fact that they were cramming in basically a totally different movie towards the end. Anyway, even though I didn't love this movie as much as many other people do, I do recommend this movie because there are some aspects of this movie that is so incredibly great, and maybe you will see a different movie than I did, and maybe you will understand why they added the 45 unnecessary minutes towards the end, which I didn't think belonged there, but that's a story for another time. Maybe you will see the movie that, you know, they intended to do. Maybe I just tried to review and see a movie I wish they did instead of the movie they actually did. And maybe that's unfair, but I don't know. Anyway, I do recommend this movie, but trade with caution. It is a movie that will be a bit divisive. Some people will just say, well, they didn't need to do that. And some people will say, oh, you don't understand. This is why this was so great because of, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 4 reasons. But The Nightingale is a very special movie. It is a unique movie about a unique subject, and it should be watched at least once. How high on the rating scales would this movie have reached if they would have made a 90-minute simple and special revenge tale? I don't know, probably in the upper 80s or something like that. But now I have to give this movie 47 points. I love the style of the movie. It's a very well-made movie, and as I said, it's a unique looking movie with a fantastic style, great nightmare sequences, and a lot of interesting things and aspects to itself. It couldn't go all the way, or maybe just went too far, I don't know. But it is a unique and good experience. Maybe they could have done a mini-series or something like that, because they felt that they had so much stuff they wanted to do. I don't know, but for me, this is a movie that could have been fantastic, but decided not to do that in favor of, you know, doing something else. So what do you think about The Nightingale? Comment below and I'll see you next time. Well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.